a safe place on them. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de The Alzheimer's Association y The Ad Council.
Play ball! Haymarket Park is buzzing with excitement this summer. Grab your crew and get in on the fun. Be sure to catch all the daily specials and promotions this season, like Thirsty Thursday, Fireworks Friday, Souvenir Saturday, Family Fun Day Sunday, plus special events and discounts all summer long. Don't miss out on the action as the Lincoln Salt Dogs take on their biggest rivals and knock the ball out of the park. Visit saltdogs.com and see this week's promotions and grab your tickets.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call us at Cordell & Cordell. Let me tell you, I understand on a personal level, your business is much more than a job. It's your legacy.
1221 N Street, Lincoln. CordellCordell.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Western Sand and Gravel is hiring for a variety of positions at their sand and gravel plants near Ashland. Apply today and receive a $2,500 hiring bonus. Available positions include plant operators, dredge operators, and shop service technicians. They offer great pay, health benefits, 401k, a wellness program, paid holidays, and paid time off. No matter your experience level, on-the-job training is available to help you build a rewarding career with Western Sand and Gravel. Start your career today. Visit westernsand.com.
Play ball! Pitch the perfect idea for a family outing or date night with tickets to the next Salt Dogs game. Nothing says summer fun like an action-packed evening at Haymarket Park. Come root for the home team with a hot dog and a cold drink. Plus, visit saltdogs.com to learn about special events and promotions, including group discounts. Don't miss out on the thrill and excitement of a Salt Dogs win. Visit saltdogs.com to reserve your tickets today.
Serve Nebraska believes that volunteers are part of what makes Nebraska great. Each year, the Step Forward Awards honors volunteers from across the state who serve their communities in outstanding ways. We hope you'll join us this year at the Step Forward Awards luncheon on October 27th in Omaha. Help us thank volunteers with a celebration to remember. To register, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Register Now. We hope to see you there. Paid for by Serve Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Muchachos has been serving Lincoln delicious pork, brisket, and chicken tacos for several years now, as well as Hatch Mac nachos and more. Muchachos also brings you close to the taste buds of your favorite local college athletes with NIL deals like the B3 burrito for Bella Bacon of Nebraska softball and many more. See a variety of different NIL options at Muchachos at 11th and K or order online at yomuchacho.com. Open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday.
Mike, the insurance company wants us to replace the roof.
Wait, what? I thought everything was fine.
Yeah, it says right here our roof is too old and they won't be able to cover us anymore.
I guess it is 15 years old. Hi, I'm Austin with Roofing Service Company. We help homeowners with their roofing and siding projects. Financing options are available, and we can get you under a new roof no time at all. If this sounds like you, visit roofingservicecompany.com. That is roofingservicecompany.com.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? Do you need a lawyer you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion? The attorneys at Liberty Law understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Contact us for a free consultation by calling 877-42-LIBERTY. Call Liberty Law and find out how we can help get you the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group, trial attorneys you can trust.
Shopping for new flooring is different today. Getting your questions answered, making the right selection, getting the best value, and installed quickly and professionally. Visit OakStreetCarpet.com or shop our store. We'll answer all your questions and help you make the right choice. You'll be enjoying your new floor in just days for less than you'd pay elsewhere. Carpet, vinyl, wood, laminate, tile, and area rugs. We've got it all.
Oak Street Carpet.
1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Inside the Huddle with Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Fires a pass, and it's intercepted by the Huskers at the 25, Jay Foreman. And Foreman takes it down to the 19-yard line of Oklahoma. Another big play by the Black Shirts.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
All right, welcome in. Harrison Arns on the ones and twos. As always, come Sunday mornings. You guys can join in 402-464-5685. We got Jay Foreman on the Allo VIP line. Really understand the importance of exceptional service with a local heart. Jay Foreman, how's it going on this Sunday morning? Or maybe we don't have Jay Foreman. Jay Foreman, if you can hear me, I can't quite hear you yet. All right, we'll give Jay Foreman a few seconds there. Jay, if you can hear me, we're going to drop the call there, and we'll try to bring you back in. In the meantime, though, like I said, Harrison Arns, I'll carry it solo in the meantime. We got a lot going on, obviously, with the NBA Finals, and then also Husker baseball shortly today. I believe 11 a.m. is when they'll be starting as we try to bring Jay Foreman back in the mix here. Jay Foreman, can you hear me now? Third time's a charm. Jay Foreman, can you hear me now?
Yeah, somehow you guys must have accidentally disconnected, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Live in effect.
Yeah, either way, we got you on air now, and I think that's what all the people really cared about for the most part. But also I asked Jay Foreman before I got anywhere was, how's it going on this Sunday morning?
Going good. You know, it's Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. 70th and Pioneer, 7601 actually, Pioneer Boulevard. Take care of all your imaging needs. A lot going on. Obviously, the big news is Husker baseball is still alive and kicking, 4-1. Knocked out Holy Cross yesterday. You got to give a big shout out to Ty Horn. You know, when your back's against the wall, I think you went 7 in the third inning, or 7 2/3 innings. And then, the one thing the team obviously has probably had super high expectations, which probably is every team in Nebraska's athletic department. Coming off an off season every year, it's national championship year, but and started a little slow, had some lulls, and then had a couple high notes. But then I think obviously winning the Big Ten tournament lets you know that when Coach Bolt and the players are saying this is a tight team and they're going to play hard and never quit. I think that game yesterday, obviously the Big Ten championship is obviously a byproduct of that, but I think obviously the game yesterday was even more clarification that this team is going to play to the very end. And so when you're talented and you're still trying to get that full I guess explosive team chemistry and live up to expectations, and some of it might maybe have been too high, but when you have that grit to keep playing and keep fighting, you're able to come back after being down 1-0 in the first inning, and then able to kind of hold your head above water, get a couple runs, in the fifth inning, I think, and then obviously put the nail in the coffin in the seventh inning, and then finish. And now you get to, play again at 11. And as long as you can keep playing, you're always going to have a chance to win, because it's not like Nebraska's going to face a team that's so immensely more talented that they can't compete. So, they just got to go out there and, play winning baseball. So you want to give a shout out to them, because, we could have very easily packed it in. The Big Ten championship could have been, all right, we get a hot streak and kind of, we can live off that for another off season, and then, try that again next year. But they want to do bigger and better things. So you always want to give a shout out to, sports teams that are playing at a hard time too. I want to get your opinion on this, Harrison, obviously from a young person's perspective, and obviously a former athlete yourself, but then obviously, being a college, thinking about a college athlete, school's, essentially out, and, you have a chance and you're playing to get to Omaha, but you have a lot more free time. You know what I'm saying? And you're not structured going to class, practice, and all that. Now, granted, ideally, I hated school, so I felt like the more time I could probably concentrate on sports, was really good for me. But I think also, it gives a little bit more time for the mind to wander. But, I'm talking about from when the school year ended and obviously playing through the Big Ten tournament. I want to give the players, a lot more kudos to the ability to focus in a unique situation. And then obviously coming up victorious yesterday.
Yeah, well, especially at this period too. It's like school's out, and also like the sports world is kind of getting quiet too. So all eyes really do just lock on your program. I mean, you're the last. Softball, baseball are going to be the last two rounds for all these universities. A lot of them out there. I don't know. I couldn't tell you how much different it is today. It's a little bit different. Don't get me wrong, but Jay, you can even tell me. I mean, the times have changed quite a bit since you were last in school. I don't know how much school really feels like when they're on these tournaments, anyways, when they're going away for this many days.
Yeah, and they obviously when we were on the football team, we generally like if we played Saturday, even at we were there the day before, we leave after the game, so we never had these long road trips. So what these kids and even the softball teams and other sports and young ladies go through is it totally different, but it's obviously something that they're used to. But the school expectations, I guess, are a little bit different. And I think Nebraska is unique in the sense that they still make kids, from what I'm told, they still make kids, student athletes, attend, classes, still do the student athlete type of thing at a higher rate than other schools. And that's probably, I think, and like where the football team, I know I can speak for the football team. I can't speak for everybody else, but I think, generally Dennis LeBlanc and Keith and Kim Shelpuffer, they've been there since I've been there. So I can probably give a blanket statement, but I know for the football team, with Coach Rule and them, they have expectations that you get out of bed, you go to class. Yes, you do have probably more online classes, but it's not just, turn your camera on and then you're playing Fortnite or, Call of Duty. They want you to be active and, participant in school, because obviously the numbers are the numbers. The 1% of the 1% make it to the NFL, and then the 1% of that, can stick. And so, yes, they want you to have, pro aspirations, and that's realistically what you want is players that want to be the best, but also the NFL career is not very long, and so they make them be student athletes and get them out in the community and do stuff. And so, Nebraska is a little bit different, but then also, to your credit, it is a different era of college sports and college football, and the expectations are different. But it's also a good feeling to know that these kids are, if they put in the effort, they're going to leave here with more than just a piece of paper. They're going to have experience. But the baseball team, before we move on to obviously a little bit of football talk with June coming up in camp, is there's a lot of eyes on you, and that's what you want, and you know what, the one thing about it, Harrison, and I said this after the the Big Ten championship, is that and this is with the basketball team as well, right? It sometimes when you don't you have all this, people expectations are more emotional, you know what I mean? And I've said this before, I don't like expectations, you know what I mean? Because I think that's something that you can always depend. If you have expectations and you ask 50 people or 100 people, you're going to get 50 or 100 different answers, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a more emotional base, right? And a lot of times expectations seem to grow or lower the more you fester on them, because you could be driving like I am now, to the airport, is that you could change your expectations based on a scenario that. And a lot of times the expectations are put on you by people that aren't involved in the program or literally don't play the sport or haven't, right? So I could change my expectation on what I want to see from a sports team or a player about 4 times on this drive to the airport. Now, what you like to have is the standard, and the standard is less emotional, less, irrational, and more sense-based. And also, you have to understand what the standard, as long as the standard is met, sometimes it creates higher expectations. And so that's about my spiel on it, because I think if you have a standard, it's kind of like a rinse and repeat. And the one thing I always talk about, with football players or football coaches that I talk to or players that I train or even like, basketball players that say like this, you want to pass the walk-by test every single time. And people are always like, what's the walk-by test? The walk-by test is if Harrison is walking past a practice and Jay Foreman is practicing and you don't know me, right? You just know number 56 or 44 or 99 or 93, whatever it is. You want it to be that I know that, he pays attention. He's a good teammate. He plays hard. He's fast and physical and all that stuff. And that's what you want for your team, because the more that you have that type of standard in the walk-by test and in the short term is you'll be in every single game. You'll be in every single championship type of mindset or a championship type of game. And then you'll need, extra effort and extraordinary plays to get you over the hump. But the standard, they always say the standard is the standard. And as long as that standard is clear, it's easier to meet versus expectations, because that's where I think a lot of people get all bent out of shape and get, hives when you talk about the 90s, is because they're dealing with emotions and expectations, right? And it's like Jordan and LeBron and all these other players, and there'll be some other player like Cooper Flag is going to face it coming up here, the expectations versus the standard, and it can get bigger and better when somebody's done it, and we've done it, right? Whereas you have the standard, that's what you want every single time you roll out of bed and pick up a basketball or play football. And so, when I talked about the 90s, everybody's, instead of focusing on the expectations, right? That's what people are talking about, the expectations. You got to really peel that onion back and look at the standard that we operated at long before we even won those championships. Because the 94, 95, 97 championships, and particularly 94, that was forged probably in 92 and 90, for sure 93, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that wasn't an expectation. It was just a standard that needed to be met and then exceeded in order to win those championships. And so when you kind of really look at it a lot different, it really changes the mindset of how you're going to go about your business and so forth and so on. And,
I wanted to ask you about Husker baseball too. Foreman is like, do you kind of see that culture change happening with Will Bolt? Because he's interesting career. Like his win-loss total, 170, 125. Like that's not bad. Don't get me wrong. But he's had some years, 22, he was 23 and 30. And the year after 33 and 23, like they were okay. But I mean, 2021, it was the COVID year. So you can put an asterisk by it, but you get an NCAA regional berth. You technically win the Big Ten tournament that year because there was none, but then you get it last year and then you get it this year. So you're back to back, and that's 5 seasons, and he's got 3 Big Ten titles if you put the asterisks on the COVID year one. Like when you're looking at this baseball team, and then you're talking about like, you have to make those exceptional plays from time to time. I think it was Rhett Stokes against Holy Cross yesterday, who had that phenomenal bouncer who hopped up and slung it all the way to first. Like those are the plays where you need to make an exceptional play, and you have guys like Stokes that make it happen. But it does feel like the culture of Nebraska baseball has starting to rise despite the win-losses, especially at middle of the year. I don't know how many people would have said that, but now here we are in another regional.
Yeah, and then you're just really it's just kind of like, I like it just because you have a younger perspective. Is just kind of going along with what I'm saying. Is like your lasting impression is actually the best impression. And you mentioned culture, and that's a big, I think Harrison, every like 3 or 4 years, you get kind of like, these different, like, I call them taglines or words or whatever about, football teams and stuff. First it was buy-in, right? Never know, then it's development, then it's culture. Really culture is a byproduct of the blueprint. So the head coach of Will Bolt, right? And this is where people need to give him, a lot more credit, where he's able to win. And it takes a little bit longer. Now, look, you also have to be realistic. We're not playing in 80 degrees in January, right? And so you have to understand that. But he creates a culture, or he's created a culture, but it's the byproduct of him having a clear blueprint of what he expects and what he wants out of players. And then the players and the leadership, right? New, old, and young, take it and run with it. Now, it takes a little bit of time, especially when you're dealing with a lot of transfer portals. The rules are changing a lot more for little bit lower revenue generating sports like baseball. Now they have more scholarships, and before you kind of had to, mess with the numbers and stuff, and had a mass exodus of the players and so forth and so on, and turn them over, and then your type of player changed as you got used to the Big Ten and what it took to win, so forth and so on. But the culture is led by having a blueprint or a clear blueprint of what you expect. And I look at it like this. It's like you're building. Everybody talks about, remember like a few years ago, probably when you first started getting into the, sports media business, they were talking about foundation, right? Mm-hmm. What's your foundation? Well, when you look at it, it's like a building. So if you're coming in and you're an architect, right? That's what coaches are. They're architects because, or, like they're subcontractors where they're the lead contractor, where you want to get your coordinators and everything in there, right? But it's all led by your blueprint. You set the blueprint, and then everybody else has to do their job to the highest expectation. And then it does change a little bit. And it's no different when you talk about building the building, the codes change. And so you want to give Will Bolt a lot of credit, where it's like, it's however you want to, dice it up. If you want to look at the win-loss percentage, then you're like, okay, well, that's not good enough. Then if you look at, okay, one Big Ten championship, that's great. And the standards there, we're always going to be in the hunt, and we're going to be playing our best baseball when we get in the dance and get a chance to win. So we're always that team of, all right, Nebraska might start off slow based on where they're located, right, and playing better teams earlier in the year that are more ready to play, like, obviously more competitive baseball, but they're going to be a factor in the end, and then they're going to make things happen. They're going to have a never say die attitude. It's kind of whatever whatever really you want to hang your hat on. And I think it's a really good point that Coach Bolt has been able to do a lot of good things and come in and really, win in different circumstances. And, I look at it like everybody's the COVID year, right? And, you hear about this with the Lakers and, the championship. Mm-hmm. Everybody, I get it. It's a unique circumstance. But anytime you win, right? You win and accomplish something, unless you just did it on you're out there scrimmaging yourself. It's a win. And yes, but everybody had the different circumstances. Some people were more equipped to be better in COVID years or not. But in order to win, when you win, that's what you really. I'm not taking anything away from them or anything like that. So, I think Coach Bolt has done a really good job, and then obviously continue to fight, because very easily coaches can get in their own way and just throw their hands up and not finish it. And then also, I think him having the expectations of the players and that lull in the middle of the season when it's just like, man, this might be one of the biggest letdowns in Nebraska baseball, like recent baseball history. To have to stick to it, and this is obviously commendable, because that's the expectation that he has of his players. But the players only were able to execute it because they saw their coach showing up, coaching hard, developing hard, being invested every day. You don't win like they've been able to win. You don't continue to play the way they continue to play if you had a head coach that was checked out and threw his hands up and wasn't invested and continuing to try to get this thing on the right track. So
that helps.
Yeah, you want to give a big shout out to him.
Yeah, and I was saying, it just helps, like he's got that blood ties there. He knows what it means. And, I'm sure in his head, he's like, he knows what it means for Nebraska to show up in Omaha, not just for the Big Ten tournament, but obviously if they can make it to the College World Series. So, yeah, it's just, he's one of those guys who, especially now after this year, I think a lot of people will actually go back and look at like how many times Nebraska is showing up at the end of the season in these Big Ten tournaments or, 3 regional placements. We still got to break through. Don't get me wrong. It's not like the job's done and we should all celebrate and go home happy. But there has been, at least to me, progress. And if there was no, blueprint, I don't think you finished the season well if you got nothing to fall back onto. So I think he definitely deserves credit there. I do got to ask you, though, now that Alabama got ousted, they are no longer in the regionals. Do we got to worry about Sankey trying to fix the college baseball bracket as well?
Listen, the one thing that they do down in the SEC, they play by a different set of rules as far as, they want to win everything, and you respect that. But I guarantee you, not only for Alabama, Sankey's trying to fix it, but let's not forget, Vanderbilt.
Oh yeah.
Literally. Hey, listen, Wright State. I think it's Wright State was beating the brakes off them. The manager or coach or whatever you want to call them. catastrophic mistake taking that young man out after 71 pitches, and then not. I mean, and that. First of all, you got to think about that. You win that. You knocked out Vanderbilt. You're thinking about a upgraded job. You get more money from your school. So you got to think. Sankey is thinking, have we been caught in baseball? Even though we've kind of bent the rules and been able, and every school in the SEC invests a lot of money in NIL and players.
Mm-hmm.
Every school. And, for Alabama, it was obviously a blue blood, but then obviously the bell cow of the SEC. There's some chinks in the armor in almost every sport. Now, I know basketball is doing well. Football looks a little suspect. And now for baseball, considering all the stuff around Bama now, even back to the betting scheme now, let's not forget that. Some calls are going down to Tuscaloosa and how to get it together. But then more importantly, they're all of a sudden going to kind of try to look at some rules and see if you can get it guaranteed into the College World Series if you had a certain amount of wins in the regular season. So the SEC is going to make sure that the goal line is not 100 yards. It might be a 98 for them and 100 for everybody else. But we'll see what happens. But it's definitely
Vandy's got to play again today. They got Wright State again because there is the revenge opportunity because you're right. Like that day one, it was 4-3. Vanderbilt scrapes through, but then Louisville upsets Vandy 3-2. So 2 p.m. today, if you want to, look at another SEC team who might be in some peril here, that is that Wright State rematch.
I mean, you know what I like though? The SEC kind of struggled in the bowl game season after they gave everybody crap on social media that they should be in. And it wouldn't be, it'd be how fitting that baseball is a sport they feel like they play. You may have advantage. Now, I will tell you, they have advantages of playing down south that they end up getting ousted, before they can get to the College World Series, being upset by teams that aren't paid their players enough or at the same rate, but then also isn't thought of as being as successful. So, anyways, that's a good first segment. Again, for Husker baseball, Will Bolt. Hopefully, 11 o'clock, they continue the winning ways. But we're going to take a quick break, come back. Talk about the expectations, Harrison. When you have these camps and big official visit weekends and it's during the day or during the week and during the weekend for not only Husker football, but the teams throughout the Big Ten, because it's a big time to try to up your rankings as far as your class for 2026-27. Jake Foreman, Inside the Huddle. We'll be right back.
The end of the school year is drawing near, which means graduation parties are coming soon. Are you prepared for hosting? Führer's Cheese Spread is the dip that brings everyone together to celebrate graduations and the close to a great school year. And it goes well with crackers, meats, soups, and more. How could you consider throwing a party without it? Get to your local grocery store today and load up on Führer's Cheese Spread. No graduation party is complete without it.
Hello.
Angela, we have to break up.
But why?
Because you're a robot and I'm just a guy trying to get better internet.
It's Aloe Fiber, isn't it? I always knew you wanted faster speeds. My contract isn't good enough for you.
Face it, Angela. They let me talk to real people.
Press 4 to break my heart. Oh wait, you already did.
Visit aloefiber.com to switch today.
Play ball! Haymarket Park is buzzing with excitement this summer. Grab your crew and get in on the fun. Be sure to catch all the daily specials and promotions this season, like Thirsty Thursday, Fireworks Friday, Souvenir Saturday, Family Fun Day Sunday, plus special events and discounts all summer long. Don't miss out on the action as the Lincoln Salt Dogs take on their biggest rivals and knock the ball out of the park. Visit saltdogs.com and see this week's promotions and grab your tickets.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association. in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
A smoke-free environment is the only way to fully protect from the dangers of secondhand smoke. That's why smoke-free policies are so important to me. Whether it's in my car, apartment building, or when I'm dining outdoors, there's no place for secondhand smoke or e-cigarette aerosol. Breathe easier knowing the facts. Visit smokefree.ne.gov. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
We've been hunting these fields north of Kearney since high school. My buddy Ryan has always been my wingman, the life of the party. But I saw it change, and he got really down. Talked about his life being worthless.
If you know someone who's struggling, talk to them about temporarily storing their guns away from their home. Taking care of friends and neighbors. It's what we do in Nebraska. Paid for by the University of Nebraska Public Policy Center, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
In today's digital world, technology works great until it doesn't. At Hamilton, we work to keep your business up and running. We are more than an IT company. We're your partner, focused on customized solutions that set you up for success now and in the future. Say goodbye to tech stress and unexpected IT costs when you hire Hamilton. Together, we help you focus on what really matters. Hamilton Business Technologies. Real people, real technology solutions. Connect with us at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
At Fairway Meat Market, you're family, and as part of the family, they want to save you money on your meat and groceries. Fairway has fresh cut meats, seafood, cheese, wine, and spirits, and a friendly staff that's always ready to help you find what you need. Stop by Fairway Meat Market today to plan your weekly meals in the Rockledge Square Shopping Center, just south of 84th and Van Dorn.
Looking for a financial partner that truly makes a difference? Modern Woodman is a member-owned fraternal financial services organization. We can help you plan for all stages of life, from protection to saving to retirement. We also offer member benefits, social activities, and volunteer opportunities to help your family and community.
I'm Sean Erickson, your Modern Woodman representative in Lincoln. Call me at 402-483-6515 to start the conversation.
Modern Woodman of America, touching lives, securing futures.
Back to Inside the Huddle, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging. Here is your host, Jay Foreman.
All right, welcome back Inside the Huddle. Brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. We got Jay Foreman, the host, as always. Jay Foreman, I know you talked about you want to lead into some Husker football. Floor's all yours.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's a drastic change, Harrison. Obviously, obviously the college football has probably changed 50 times since I played, which is obviously just the evolution of sports, and is led by whatever multitude of factors. But when I was, and this is less about me, but it's just also how things have changed, and it lets you know that coaching it always has been 24/7, 365, but this is actually a huge time, for a lot of programs, and it's kind of like the beginning of your season, you know what I mean? And the reason why I say that is because of in Minnesota, I think I got out of high school in the middle of June, right? And I got all the stuff like when I was supposed to report, and that was like in August. You know what I'm saying? And I think maybe minimal check-ins with the coaching staff, make sure that we were still coming, we're still interested in being a Husker, and we would be there on time. That was about it, right? Mm-hmm. We knew we had to pass the 300-yard shuttle conditioning test. Well, now these high school kids, and now with the transfer portal, juniors going into their senior year, or sometimes like we saw, I think with Trey Taylor, I think sophomores going into their junior year, they're picking their schools a lot earlier. Now there's other factors where in some states you can pay kids some sort of NIL beforehand, but you got to get in where you fit in, right? Because spots are starting to be, swallowed up a lot earlier because of the transfer portal, which is appealing because you can go get a kid that is around the same age as a junior or senior in high school that has played major college football before. So, for Nebraska, June's a big month. I'm sure they got all their official visits, not all of them, but, quite a few official visits set up. I'm sure kids do a lot of unofficial visits now. They go on like camp tours or
I think they got Archie Wilson this weekend. right now.
Yeah, I mean,
believe.
Right. And so then, and I know they had the punter, that came in from
that's
Australia,
Wilson out of
which
Australia that I'm talking about.
And I think he's just staying. And then you have a multitude of other players take their official visits. And I guess like for people that are listening, unofficial visit versus official visit, at least by my knowledge, is like, it's on your dime. It's not as long. It's not as, I guess, as, intense. You get to see, kind of like, it's almost like you're window shopping and, on both ends. They're meeting you, that you want to get verification, are you the same height and weight that you've been listed at on your Huddle or, social media? And then your official visit is like, you bring your parents down or your, whoever your guardians are. And they give you obviously the true, get into the nuts and bolts of it. And then you kind of, see where you fit in, and then you see whether you get an offer or not. And then you go from there. And it's a good start to the season because, obviously after spring ball, you get a little bit of lull with the school year ending, class wise. And then you get into your off season work. And that's where you don't see it. I'm assuming you don't see a lot, from the team that's getting ready to play next year because you're just lifting weights and running. I'm sure, guys are out in the, doing some charity work and stuff, but, it also gives that little bit of the hype of if you can get some good, big early commitments or have a good leg up on getting players that, can commit during the season. Cause they'll come back during, Saturday during their off weeks and have big recruiting weekends then. Because that'll set forth, what's coming, for the years to come, and obviously in particular next year, because you have the early signing period in December, and we're already pretty much obviously in June, and so you're halfway through the year, potentially halfway through the year, and you got to make moves for the next year and the year after, and it also lets you know where you're at as far as like perception wise, and I think Nebraska's done a really good job of like, now anytime you can have two big time quarterbacks with a lot of, fanfare behind them, and Dylan Raiola, and then obviously Trey Taylor, and then mixed in between there is Dayton Raiola. You're knocking out a big piece to the puzzle.
And TJ Lateef as well. He's in that mix.
Yeah, TJ Lateef. Yeah, exactly. From before, I don't want to miss him and anything like that. So, I think that when you're building a team, whether it's, high school, college, or the pros, you got to really start with the quarterback position. Nebraska's, been able to make some inroads there, and then obviously it makes the recruiting and then the transfer portal a lot easier. And also, let's not forget, these kids that are getting recruited now in high school, the guys that are just starting college about to report, like I said, I was about to, they all know each other. It's less than 6 degrees of separation because of social media. They all know who's good or who was a highly ranked player from 2 years older than them, and then a year or two, younger than them. So that's like a whole cycle of players that have some sort of connection. Now it's not directly, but it's more indirectly. And so what I mean by that is say if you have Harrison Arms is a big time recruit out of like, I don't know, let's just say Oklahoma offensive lineman, and Jay Foreman is at, let's just say Clemson, and I'm a redshirt freshman, and then I redshirted last year, even though I played 4 games, and then I'm going to do this year. And say I know who you are. Say I went against you in some sort of like 7-on-7 competition, or perhaps even better if I played against you in high school or something like that. And I was like, man, Harrison's a pretty good player. And he decides to go to Nebraska. And say like my time is up in Clemson for whatever reason. That would make, once I go into the portal, even though say like Nebraska like maybe finished second, third, or fourth on my list, or maybe wasn't in my top 8 or whatever it is, and Nebraska's interested in me, now Nebraska's in my top 2 or 3. And so how you some of the guys that you get now can help get guys in the future, and that's the great thing about recruiting. It makes it a little bit harder, or a lot harder, but then sometimes it could be a little bit easier based on one guy coming, and that's what they're probably trying to do. And then obviously get a leg up on the competition, because you get a lot of guys on campus, and once you get kids to Nebraska in general, but better yet, Lincoln and Omaha, especially down on campus, they tend to move Nebraska up their list. And so June is a big month.
Well, with that being
for
said,
Nebraska,
Jay, speaking of
and
that,
the coaching clinic as well.
Yeah, June being a big month. Well, I want to ask you on that same note, next week's the 7-on-7 tournament. some people, a lot of people are saying this is a big deal for Matt Rule's camps. To everything you just said, you get the guys there on campus, and not just campus, but actually scrimmaging out there in Memorial Stadium. How big is that to you, as you think it's like a recruiting tool that Matt Rule's got in his arsenal now?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's something that, like I mentioned before with Coach Will Bolton, obviously Matt Rule, done it too. It's like, even though you have your blueprint, you're able to change and make some adjustments to your blueprint. So 7-on-7 wasn't prevalent probably when he first started his head coaching career. Now it's a big part of the whole recruiting process. So you want to see kids come here and compete. You don't get to see them that much. You got to think you get to see. A lot of times if they came and watched me in high school, I mean, I played against good competition, but generally, there's 4 or 5 guys, right? Now you're going to get to see them, move, compete. And then also you look at the CJ Stroud type of deal. 2 players from his 7-on-7 team were going to Ohio State. Those 2 players told Ohio State coaches they needed CJ Stroud. Now he's a franchise quarterback. So you never know who you can come across and who could be a part of your team that can really turn around your program. And so I think it's a big deal because you're getting all of those. It's like having, I don't know, just say if there's 30 teams, right? And let's say 50 teams of different age groups. And just say there's 20 kids, per team. You're essentially getting, 50 times 20, I don't know what that is, was 1,000 or whatever, kids and obviously coaches on an unofficial visit, essentially for free. They're able to come here and play it, but you're getting them all at once. And so you like it because it makes you, ideally make you more efficient, but then also, you get to see these guys up close and personal just one more time or one extra time, or having your first initial meeting and where you can knock it out the park with them and they can knock it out the park with you. So I think it's huge. And then also I think it's Nebraska has done it, or is, again, doing it on a bigger scale. So it kind of gives you a little bit more credit. And I think, one thing that's about recruiting, before we go to break here is that, kids like to go, like, they want to win, ideally, right? They want to win, and they like it when it's easier to win, right? So it's easier to go like to the Georgias and Texas like that. But they also like to go, and we saw this with Oregon before they started to really take off because they did a lot of things with the uniform. They like to go where it's like the cool thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's a big thing for Nebraska and some of their coaches to get all these players on campus. But also, let's not forget, it's a big opportunity for someone to be 7-on-7 organizations to grow their programs as well. So I think that's one thing about recruiting that gets glossed over is the relationship aspect of earning the trust of the coaches. I mean, at Nebraska, of the coaches or the program directors of these 7-on-7 programs, and vice versa. So it's not just the kids; it's the adults in the room learning how to trust each other. Because look, if I'm running Jay Foreman Football Academy or whatever it is, whatever my 7-on-7 team is, and I'm calling Matt Rule and beating on his door or whoever the other recruiting coordinators are, and I say I got 4 players that can help your program, or I know this kid can help your program, or I got one kid I know that's going, for sure, high 4-star Power 4 school. But you need to look at these 2 other 2 because they could be somebody that can help you in the future. Maybe I just got my hands on them in my program. They're underdeveloped or they're younger kids. You got to trust me that I'm not selling you some snake oil or some kids that can't really walk and chew gum and can't play dead. And then on the flip side, if one of my kids goes to your school or multiple kids go to your school, ideally, is that they have a good experience. And a good experience can't be they get everything they want with minimal effort. Is that they're treated fairly. If they play good, they end up earning playing time, so forth and so on. So that's a big part of it too, because you want to have those relationships to make recruiting easier. That's how you build a program, because then you can have I call them like watering holes, set up all across the nation where you can just pluck players off, and so that way you can have a leg up on your competition.
Well said. I got a couple minutes left here, Jay Foreman. I'll let you set the floor. Where do you want to go with it on segment 3 before we do throw it to break?
Segment 3, obviously, we'll jump into a little basketball. I got the NBA Finals set.
Are you surprised by it at all? I should ask first before we do talk about it that we are here at a Pacers and Thunder Finals.
I am for different reasons. The Thunder, I just felt like the way that they lost last year, I wasn't sure with the youth that they would be able to take that loss, learn from it. And I just figured, the Nuggets, and obviously I was a little bit biased with the Timberwolves, were going to be able to step up, right? And then on the flip side, I had first-hand, experience of watching the Pacers in person down in Charlotte, and they look horrible. And I would tell you this, I said it on the Old School, and I talked to Austin about it. Tyrese Halliburton looked horrible. He looked like a better version of LaMelo Ball, like they were just out there playing pickup ball. Now, what I didn't realize is that the NBA first kind of quarter of the season or fifth of the season is essentially an extension of preseason. And then they started to really get their identity and who they were, and the role identification started to really go. And you got to give it to Rick Carlisle. So I'm a little surprised from one is the, perception, and the other was what I saw in a snapshot. Remember I mentioned that walk-by test? They failed the walk-by test there, but actually they knew better than I knew on that quick, example of playing against the Charlotte Hornets. They still won, but it was just not a good performance. I had higher expectations of Tyrese Halliburton based on him being on the Olympic team. The reality was he had a better standard and had a more, intrinsic standard, because he knew what a great player was. So I'm a little surprised. We'll talk about it after a quick break. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. We'll be right back.
Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstorats.com for amazing offers. And if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats. At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends.
If you want to make new floor shopping easier, come to O Street Carpet. Hi, I'm Steve Carper. Our flooring professionals can help you choose the best flooring for you, your family, and your budget. We eliminate the confusion. Even better, you'll be enjoying your new flooring much sooner. No 6 or 8 week waits. We'll install right away and save you money on installation. Floor shopping made easy every day at O Street Carpet.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
Spring sports are here and it's time to upgrade your equipment. But don't go rushing to your big box store. Play It Again Sports is your place to go for all spring sports equipment for baseball, softball, golf, and disc golf. Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And don't forget, buying from them is a great way to get new products with great discounts by also bringing in your used items for store credit or cash on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait. Apply now.
Muchachos has been serving Lincoln delicious pork, brisket, and chicken tacos for several years now, as well as hatchback nachos and more. Muchachos also brings you close to the taste buds of your favorite local college athletes with NIL deals like the B3 burrito for Bella Bacon of Nebraska softball and many more. See a variety of different NIL options at Muchachos at 11th and K or order online at yomuchacho.com. Open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. Saturday. Eagle Raceway is open for a full season of dirt track racing action every Saturday night. Don't miss the epic battles on the high banks of Eagle Raceway each Saturday between the Nebraska Septic Sprint Cars, Nebraska Lottery Modifieds, Avid Realty Sport Mods, Valentino's Hobby Stocks, and A1 Iron Stock Cars. Let's go racing. Eagle Raceway, just 10 miles east of Lincoln on O Street. Check out the full schedule at eagleraceway.com.
Hi, my name is Molly Party. I'm a realtor with MP Dodge Real Estate. I'm a newly licensed agent and considered numerous brokerages before deciding on MP Dodge. I chose the company that gives me the most support in my new career, plus guidance and encouragement along the way. MP Dodge has a unique mentoring program for new agents. It's helped jumpstart my career and has a supportive management team and administrative staff. So if you're contemplating a career in real estate, look no further than MP Dodge. It will be the best decision you make.
You're listening to Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
All right, welcome back in. Harrison Arns, final segment, Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman on the Allo VIP line. As always, where they understand the importance of exceptional service with a local art. Going to wrap up, talk some NBA. It's official. We got Thunder and Pacers in the NBA Finals. Thunder cruised through. They win it pretty comfortably. And Pacers, they get it done as well. I believe a 4-2 series over there in the East and then 4-1 in the West. And now we're sitting here. Also, as on YouTube pointed out, Pascal Siakam won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, not Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah. A little awkward moment there at the end for Halliburton, who I actually thought for sure was going to get it as well. But one vote, voted out. Siakam got it.
Hey, man, Halliburton balled out, but that was kind of funny, though. But, he was walking to go get it. Siakam, I think, was I mean, the star player was walking to get his award and got the gas face a little bit of a psych right there. And so I think that probably didn't sit well with Tyrese Halliburton, a little bit of embarrassment. But you know what I think for Tyrese Halliburton, when he got that overrated chant going, it really motivated him. So, he's one of those guys that he's a silent killer, the smiling assassin. The pretty boy prince, whatever you want to call him. I think that if he uses his motivation in a good way, that, can lead the Pacers to NBA championship. But they got a tall order with OKC, and it was pretty much domination, in different ways. And here's why. I think OKC, I think the matchup with OKC was not good for the Timberwolves because of the difference in the mindset of their two star players, and I mean Anthony Edwards and versus Shea, right? Is because Shea seems like he's a little bit more level-headed, all-in basketball, and really by his dominance this year with the MVP showed you that he learned and they learned from their loss, and actually he got better, right? And then the team got better. They got better in their roles. He got better as a star player. He welcomed the moment. He didn't run from it. Versus the other side, where you saw Anthony Edwards, he still hasn't gotten together with the accountability. Some of his off the court habits are affecting the on court performance, so he needs to get better there. And that was a byproduct of some of the things and the hard lessons that Steve Kerr and the other teams had to tell him in the Olympics. And then it kind of trickled down to the team to where they weren't able to rise to the moment because 2 times in that series, right? You got to think. You're 4 wins away from going to the NBA championship. The very first game, Coach Finn said Anthony Edwards needs to bring more energy. He needs to bring his game. And then in game 4 at home, which is so crucial to tie the series up because that makes that game 5 a lot harder for OKC to blow them out. And then, they got to play a little bit tighter. He was nowhere to be found. It was a fool's gold 16 to 18 points. That's the difference. And that's what made OKC essentially dominant from game 1 to get to game 5, and it was a easier gentleman sweep, right? Well, then you look at the Knicks. The Knicks right now for their off season is a lot of regret, right? Whereas you think, Halliburton hits that last second shot, they wouldn't steal the first game, get the other one, go down 2-0. Both of those first 2 games, they had double-digit leads late in the game, but Indiana was able to close and keep at it, right? They had a little bit more mental toughness and intestinal fortitude. Then obviously they were able to win, 4-2, with New York, essentially keeping their head above water and delaying their off-season vacation a couple more days. But I think this is probably a really, really good matchup. And so I think this series is going to be really, really good. The biggest thing it's going to come down to, Austin, is can the Pacers play the way that they want to play and the way they played all year with OKC that can match them speed for speed? And will the Pacers and Rick Carlisle have a defensive scheme that will be able to make Shea Alexander struggle a little bit offensively? It's there. And I think the Pacers are a little bit more mature. I think Siakam is going to be a big factor, and everybody, Nate Smith and all those guys against Shea. I think whereas the Timberwolves, I think it was a little bit, easy picking. And if Indiana can shoot the ball well enough from three, I think this game is going to go, or I think the series is going to go 6-7 games.
I wish I was that optimistic. I do think Siakam Chet is going to be the matchup. I just, knowing how the Pacers like to go up and down, to me, that sounds terrifying. If you want to play OKC, the number one defense, and you want to challenge them to a shootout, I like picking the Thunder more often than not. I think the Pacers are good. They're going to have, they'll probably, I'm not calling for a sweep or anything, but my jaw's not going to hit the floor if it's a gentleman's sweep. This Thunder team's really good. Yeah. They're blowing teams out of the water. I thought the Nuggets were the favorite in the NBA Western Conference until the Thunder could prove that they weren't that young team anymore. And they did that by beating the Nuggets. And then, the way they handled the Timberwolves just kind of made me double down on, I think the Nuggets were probably maybe the second best team in this entire thing. And I got a tough time seeing the Pacers coming out alive versus the Thunder. And the worst part about the Thunder is, if they don't get it this year, so what? They get 4 first-round picks, and then in 26, I think they get 3 more. Whatever they want to do with those picks, move them around. And if they do get it this year, well, they're just playing with house money at that point, and some serious house money.
Yeah, I think, the Thunder are set up for, they're dangerous. Really, I thought Denver was, but then Denver had a mass exodus of some of the, I call it bloodline type of players or the players or the lifeline, where it's Brown and Jeff Green left and obviously Pope left, right? Caldwell Pope. But I think with OKC, the only way they don't win a championship is if the Pacers are able to play at the pace that they want to play. And what I mean by that is because the way that they play offense, the Pacers, makes their defense better. And if they can play a little bit better, more disciplined defense against Shea Alexander, and make it a little bit harder for them and learn from the Timberwolves' mistakes. And the biggest thing is also is going to come down, don't get killed on the boards. And so if they can do those, and that's a lot of ifs, right? But I think it starts with the pace of play and then obviously defensive rebound. I'll just say defensive rebounds. The Pacers will make a series out of it, but I'm going to pick the OKC Thunder. They're the best team. And you know what? The team is going to go down as one of the better teams of recent history about 4 or 5 years from now. So anyways, good show. Appreciate everybody listening. Good luck to the Huskers today at 11. Tune in. Have your mindset set on them. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. We'll holler at you next week.
At Fairway Meat Market, you're family, and as part of the family, they want to save you money on your meat and groceries. Now through June 1st, enjoy USDA choice beef,